Hi guys, welcome back to In Case of Econ Struggles and welcome to another AP Micro Struggle. Today we're talking about the Production Possibility Frontier, or the PPF, which is topic 1.3. Here are the things the College Board says that you need to know. You need to know what exactly a Production Possibility Frontier is. You need to know the regions of the PPF. You need to know why and how the PPF shifts. And you need to know that the slope of the PPF reflects opportunity cost. So timestamps are below if you would like to jump around, but let's get right into it. The big idea behind Production Possibility Frontiers, or PPFs, is that we're thinking about production and resource allocation. So as a basic example, consider the United States, and let's say they only make two things. They make US flags and corn. A PPF is going to answer the question, what are all the possible combinations of US flags and corn that the United States could produce if the United States used all its resources effectively to making either US flags, either corn, or some combination of both goods. So here is a sample PPF based on the example we just talked about, where we've got flags on the y-axis and we've got corn on the x-axis. Notice that at the orange dot, this is how many flags the U.S. could produce if the U.S. only produced flags. And this blue dot here is the amount of corn the U.S. could produce if the U.S. only wanted to make corn. And then everything in between on this magenta line is the combination that the U.S. could make of both flags and corn. Again, this is if they put all the resources towards making as much as they could of both flags and corn. And we call this magenta line the PPF, for the Production Possibility Frontier. So what we would say is that if you're on this line, you are both feasible and efficient, where feasible means that you could make it, and efficient means that you're actually using all the resources you have available to you. Which means if we go below the PPF into this purple shaded region here, we can definitely make these combinations, so we say they're feasible, but we're leaving some resources on the table. So we would say we're not efficient or we're underutilized. Why is that? Well, you can imagine if we're only producing this much stuff, there might be a lot of workers who are just sort of lazing around. They don't really have anything to do. We're not using all of our resources efficiently. We could be making a lot more flags and a lot more corn with the resources we have. So this region above the PPF, we call that not feasible. Based on the amount of resources that the United States has, there is no way in a million years you could ever produce, say, both this much food and this much corn. Now let's talk about the slope of the Production Possibility Frontier, or the slope of the PPF. We said this magenta line represents all the possible combinations of US flags and corn that we could produce if we were using all our resources efficiently. So if we move, say, from point A to point B, what's going to happen is we basically are giving up being able to make this many US flags in order to make this much corn. So we're giving up X number of flags to make Y amount of corn. From B to C, you can see it's a little more similar to a 1-to-1. Why does it change along the PPF like this, and why does it get really steep at the end? Well, you can imagine when we're only making US flags, and this orange point represents the point at which we're only making US flags, we've got every single worker involved in making US flags, and so they're probably getting in each other's way a little bit. But if we take away some workers from that factory, we give up being able to make a little bit of US flags, and we put those workers in the field, well, no one is currently in the field, so they're probably going to be able to crank out a lot of corn even just with a few workers in the field. So we get a lot more corn that we can make just by giving up a little bit of US flags. But as we take away more and more workers from the flag factory and put them in the field, well, now we don't have that many people in the flag factory, but we have a lot of farmers in the field. If we have a lot of farmers in the field, they're starting to get in each other's way. So you need to throw a lot more farmers, a lot more workers into the field in order to increase your output of corn by a little bit. So this trade-off, this opportunity cost between flags and corn, is going to get steeper and steeper as you move from left to right. You can also imagine it goes the other way, where you start with only corn and you give up a little bit of corn and you get a lot of flags. And as you keep going right to left, you're going to have the opposite story. That's what we call increasing opportunity cost. As you put more people into one good, you have to put even more people just to get a little bit more out of them. Now that we've talked about both the regions and the slope of the PPF, let's talk about why and how the PPF shifts. So first, you could have changes in inputs. This is something like immigration, or maybe you start building a whole bunch more machines to, say, make US flags. It could be changes in efficiency technology, or it could be booms and recessions. So let's just talk about each of these graphically, and we'll start with changes in inputs. Now, the way that I like to draw shifts in PPFs is that I already have a PPF, and basically what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try and take the points on the axes here, and I'm going to figure out where those new points are if they moved, and then I'm just going to draw a PPF between those 2 points with a similar shape to the original PPF. And that's going to be true as we go through these examples here. So for example, if I have a lot of immigration, if my inputs go up, if I was making this much corn before and I have more inputs, more workers, I can now make this much corn if I'm only producing corn. And if I was able to produce this many flags, I can now produce this many flags. And then I just draw the PPF with a similar shape between those 2 points. You can see that the PPF shifts out, which makes sense because now that we have more inputs, more workers, we should be able to just make more stuff in general. On the other hand, if we have a lot of emigration, if people start leaving our country and going somewhere else, then before, if we could make this much corn, we can only make this much corn now. And if before we could make this many US flags, we can now only make this many US flags, so our PPF shifts in. Notice that this is also true for booms and recessions. Maybe this is a boom where we have a lot less unemployment, and this is where we have more unemployment, something like that. So this is sort of representing points 1 and 3, where the PPF shifts based on changes in inputs and the economy. Now let's say that you have changes in efficiency or technology. So maybe in this first example, you only change your technology when it comes to making US flags. So you can make the same amount of corn as before, but maybe you have better sewing machines now. So before you could make this many US flags, but now you can make this many flags. So you sort of like bow out towards flags. The reason that the corn doesn't change is because you have great new sewing machines. Great new sewing machines is not going to affect your ability to farm corn. Similarly, if you suddenly lose a lot of knowledge about how to make US flags well, then maybe now you can make less US flags but the same amount of corn. And again, you're just connecting those 2 points with sort of a similar concave looking shape like that. On the other hand, if you get something like a better tractor or you figure out how to farm better, figuring out how to farm better or getting better tractors are not going to help you make more US flags. So the amount of US flags you can make if you put all your people into making US flags doesn't change. But if you have better tractors, better farming technology, you can make much more corn. And again, you just trace out those 2 points like that. But maybe you have sort of like a bunch of tractors that break, or maybe it's really bad weather this year, so you can make even less corn than you normally can, but you can make the same amount of US flags, and again, you're just connecting the points. Now, I talked about this earlier, but I'm going to hit this again with respect to opportunity cost and the slope of the PPF, because opportunity cost is something we're going to be talking about a lot in this course. So here's how opportunity cost works, just again, really quick. If this is corn and this is flags, and I have to give up 2 corn to make a flag, then I would say that the opportunity cost of making 1 US flag is 2 corn in this specific instance. Then if I go further down the PPF, I would say that the opportunity cost of 1 flag is 5 corn. So notice that, like we said earlier, opportunity costs are increasing from left to right and right to left. This is the predominant shape of PPFs you're going to see in this course. And I just want to really quickly show you those just in case it comes up in any questions on test or homework. So this is the familiar increase in opportunity cost that we all know and love. If it's constant opportunity cost, if that opportunity cost never changes, then the slope here is constant and we just have a straight line. If for some reason, as you moved along the PPF, you had to give up less corn to make another flag, that would be called decrease in opportunity cost, and it would look like this convex shape here. Again, you should really focus in on this blue curve here. I just want you to have seen these other 2 once, just in case it comes up. But hopefully this gives you a better idea of PPFs as well as opportunity cost. If this was helpful, make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time for another case of econ struggles.